The compass needle trembled as I banked the Catalina hard to port, my heart hammering against my ribs. Below us, stretched across the turquoise waters of the Coral Sea like a steel serpent, lay the largest Japanese invasion fleet I'd ever seen. Destroyers cut white wakes through the morning swells, their gun turrets tracking our lumbering flying boat. Transport ships heavy with troops steamed in neat columns, while the dark silhouettes of cruisers prowled the formation's edges like hunting wolves. I keyed the radio with shaking fingers, knowing the coordinates I was about to transmit would seal the fate of thousands of men on both sides. "This is Black Cat 7, I whispered into my microphone, using our squadron's call sign. I found them. It was May 7th, 1942, and the war in the Pacific hung by a thread. Just 5 months after Pearl Harbor, the Japanese war machine seemed unstoppable. Wake Island had fallen. The Philippines were lost. Singapore was gone. Now they were coming for Port Moresby, the strategic Allied base in New Guinea that would give them a launching pad for an assault on Australia itself. But they didn't know that Admiral Frank Jack Fletcher's Task Force 17 was racing north through these same waters, desperate to intercept them before they could land their troops. They also didn't know about us, the Black Cats of Patrol Squadron VP-11, flying our slow but dependable PBY Catalinas on long-range reconnaissance missions that could keep us airborne for 20 hours at a stretch. While the world focused on the glamorous fighter pilots and dive bomber crews, we were the eyes and ears of the Pacific Fleet, searching thousands of square miles of empty ocean for enemy ships that could appear and disappear like ghosts. I'd been flying these patrols for 3 months now, ever since we'd been hastily deployed from San Diego to the forward base at Townsville, Australia. My crew and I had logged hundreds of hours over the Coral Sea, staring at nothing but endless blue water and the occasional pod of whales. But this morning was different. This morning, intelligence reports suggested the Japanese were finally making their move. The sun had been up for barely an hour when we lifted off from our advanced seaplane tender, the USS Tangier, anchored in a hidden lagoon 60 miles southeast of New Guinea. Our Catalina, officially designated as a PBY-5A but affectionately known as a Cat to her crews, was loaded with extra fuel tanks that gave us a combat radius of over 1,500 miles. She wasn't pretty, with her high parasol wing and ungainly hull that made her look more like a flying whale than a warplane. But she was reliable, and in the vast Pacific, reliability meant the difference between coming home and disappearing forever into the blue. My co-pilot, Lieutenant Bob Hansen from Minnesota, sat beside me in the cramped cockpit, his eyes glued to a pair of high-powered binoculars. Behind us, aviation radioman First Class Tony Ricci hunched over his radio equipment, fine-tuning the frequency settings while our 2 waist gunners, Petty Officers Jim Walsh and Eddie Kowalski, scanned the horizon through the observation blisters. We'd been airborne for 4 hours, following a search pattern that took us northwest from our base toward the Wisiad Archipelago, where intelligence believed the Japanese might attempt to round the tip of New Guinea. The morning had started clear, but now towering cumulus clouds were building on the horizon, creating perfect cover for an enemy fleet that wanted to stay hidden. "Contact bearing 020, Hansen suddenly called out, his voice tight with excitement. "Multiple ships, looks like a big formation." I felt my pulse quicken as I swung the Catalina onto the new heading. In the distance, barely visible through the morning haze, dark specks dotted the water. As we drew closer, those specks resolved into the unmistakable shapes of warships, more warships than I'd ever seen in one place. Walsh whispered from his position at the port waist gun, "Look at them all." The Japanese formation spread before us like a textbook fleet exercise. In the center steamed at least a dozen large transports, their holds packed with the soldiers who would storm the beaches of Port Moresby. Surrounding them in a protective screen were cruisers and destroyers, their hulls gleaming in the morning sun. And somewhere in that formation, hidden among the escorts, would be aircraft carriers whose planes could swat our lumbering Catalina from the sky like a fly. "Range approximately 8 miles, Hansen reported, his binoculars never leaving his eyes. "I count. 16, no 17 major combatants. Transports in the center, heavy cruisers on the flanks. Speed looks like 12 knots, course 240. I knew we were looking at Vice Admiral Shima Port Moresby invasion force, designated MO operation by the Japanese, the spearhead of their drive toward Australia. Intelligence estimates suggested they were carrying over 5,000 assault troops, enough to overwhelm the small Australian garrison at Port Moresby and establish a major forward base barely 300 miles from the Australian mainland. But we'd found them. After months of fruitless patrols, we'd actually found them. "Tony, get on the radio," I ordered, my voice surprisingly steady. "Send a contact report to Task Force 17. Give them our position, enemy course and speed, and estimated composition." Ricci's fingers flew over his radio key, tapping out the message in Morse code that would bring Admiral Fletcher's carriers racing toward this position. But I knew it would take hours for our forces to close the distance, and by then the Japanese might have changed course or disappeared into a weather front. That's when I made the decision that would haunt me for the rest of my life. "We're going to shadow them," I announced to my crew. "Stay close enough to track their movements, far enough away to avoid getting shot down." For the next 3 hours, we played a deadly game of cat and mouse with the Japanese fleet. I kept the Catalina at the very edge of visual range, circling the formation like a vulture while Ricci transmitted regular position updates back to our task force. The Japanese knew we were there. I could see destroyers breaking away from the formation to investigate whenever we got too close, but they couldn't catch our lumbering flying boat as long as I kept my distance and used the cloud cover. It was nerve-wracking work. Every few minutes, Hansen would spot aircraft taking off from one of the Japanese carriers, and we'd have to duck into the nearest cloud bank and pray they couldn't find us. The Zero fighters were faster and more maneuverable than anything we had in the Pacific at that time, and if they caught us in open sky, we'd be dead men. But we stayed with them. Through the morning and into the afternoon, as the Japanese fleet steamed steadily toward their objective, we maintained contact and fed their position to Admiral Fletcher's approaching task force. I could picture the scene on the bridge of the USS Lexington and USS Yorktown as our reports came in. Staff officers plotting courses on charts, dive bomber squadrons being briefed for strikes, the entire weight of American naval aviation preparing to fall on the unsuspecting Japanese. Around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, everything changed. Hansen was scanning the southern horizon when he suddenly stiffened. "Aircraft bearing 180, he called out. "Looks like." "That's a lot of planes." I turned to look where he was pointing and felt my heart sink. Rising from the southern horizon like a swarm of angry hornets came the largest formation of aircraft I'd ever seen. Even at a distance, I could make out the distinctive silhouettes of Douglas SBD Dauntless dive bombers and Grumman TBF Avenger torpedo planes, American aircraft from Fletcher's task force. The first strike from the USS Lexington and USS Yorktown had found the Japanese fleet. What happened next was like watching a deadly ballet performed at 300 miles per hour. The American dive bombers peeled off in groups of 3 and 4, screaming down at the Japanese ships from 15,000 feet, while the torpedo planes skimmed the wave tops, boring in from multiple directions. Anti-aircraft fire erupted from every ship in the formation, filling the sky with black puffs of smoke and deadly steel fragments. From our ringside seat 5 miles away, we watched the attack unfold with horrified fascination. The Japanese ships twisted and turned in desperate evasive maneuvers, throwing up walls of water with their violent turns. But the American pilots pressed home their attacks with a courage that took my breath away. "There goes one," Walsh shouted from his gun position, pointing at a Japanese destroyer that had taken a direct hit from a 1,000-pound bomb. The ship seemed to lift completely out of the water before breaking in half and disappearing beneath the waves in less than 30 seconds. The slaughter continued for 20 minutes. I watched SBD dive bombers punch through the anti-aircraft fire to plant bombs directly on the decks of Japanese cruisers. Torpedo planes weaved through the formation at mast height, their deadly fish striking home against transport ships that exploded in towering columns of flame and smoke. But the Japanese weren't helpless victims. Even as their ships burned and sank around them, their own aircraft were launching counterstrikes. I could see Zero fighters and OHD-3 dive bombers climbing away from the carrier flight decks, racing south toward Admiral Fletcher's task force. "Tony, get on the radio," I ordered. "Warn Fletcher that Japanese aircraft are inbound." Estimate 40 to 50 planes, mixed fighters and bombers. As Ricci transmitted the warning, I kept the Catalina orbiting the battle area, documenting the destruction for the post-strike intelligence reports. The scene below was like a vision of hell. At least 6 Japanese ships were burning or sinking, their crews abandoning ship into the oil-slicked water. The transport ships carrying the invasion troops were being systematically destroyed, taking thousands of Japanese soldiers to the bottom with them. By the time the American strike aircraft turned for home, the Port Moresby invasion force was finished as an offensive weapon. Half their transports were sunk or sinking, their escorts scattered and damaged. The invasion that was supposed to bring Japanese troops to within striking distance of Australia had been stopped cold in the waters of the Coral Sea. But the battle wasn't over. Not by a long shot. As the afternoon wore on, we continued to shadow what remained of the Japanese fleet, now retreating northward toward their base at Rabaul. The ships that could still move were making maximum speed, desperately trying to get their surviving transports out of range of another American airstrike. Behind them, they left a trail of oil slicks, debris, and lifeboats filled with survivors. Around 4 o'clock, Hansen spotted aircraft approaching from the north, Japanese planes returning from their strike against Fletcher's task force. But something was wrong. The formations were ragged and incomplete, nothing like the neat formations that had launched hours earlier. "Looks like our boys gave as good as they got," Hansen observed grimly. As the surviving Japanese aircraft landed on their carriers, we could see that many were shot up and damaged. Some crashed on landing, bursting into flames on the flight decks. Others had to be pushed overboard to make room for the next plane trying to land. It was clear that Admiral Fletcher's fighters had extracted a heavy toll from the attacking Japanese formations. But we also knew that our own task force had taken losses. The radio was filled with damage reports and calls for assistance, though the details were too fragmentary and coded for us to get a clear picture of what had happened. All we could do was continue our patrol and hope that Admiral Fletcher's ships were in better shape than the shattered Japanese fleet we were watching retreat toward Rabaul. As the sun began to sink toward the western horizon, I made the decision to break off contact and return to base. We'd been airborne for nearly 14 hours. Our fuel gauges showed we were running low, and there wasn't much more we could accomplish by staying with the retreating Japanese ships. Set course for home, I told Hansen, banking the Catalina onto a southeasterly heading that would take us back to the USS Tangier. The flight home was strangely quiet. After the drama and tension of the day's battle, the empty ocean seemed almost peaceful. But my mind kept returning to what we'd witnessed. The sight of American dive bombers pressing home their attacks through walls of anti-aircraft fire, the image of Japanese ships breaking apart and sinking beneath the waves, the oil slicks and lifeboats that marked where thousands of men had died. We'd done our job. The reconnaissance flight that had started as just another routine patrol had turned into the mission that located and tracked the Japanese invasion fleet, enabling Admiral Fletcher's pilots to deliver the devastating attack that turned the tide of the battle. The coordinates I transmitted from our first sighting of the enemy fleet had guided nearly 100 American aircraft to their targets with deadly precision. But the cost had been enormous on both sides. As we flew through the gathering darkness, radio reports began to paint a clearer picture of the day's losses. The Japanese had lost the light carrier Shoho, sunk by dive bombers from the USS Lexington with all hands. Several cruisers and destroyers were sunk or heavily damaged, and at least 8 transport ships carrying invasion troops had been sent to the bottom of the Coral Sea. American losses were lighter but still significant. The USS Lexington had been badly damaged by Japanese torpedo and dive bomber attacks, and would eventually have to be abandoned and scuttled the following day. The USS Yorktown had also taken damage but remained operational. Dozens of aircraft had been lost on both sides, along with their irreplaceable crews. As we approached the lagoon where the USS Tangier was anchored, I could see other PBY Catalinas moored alongside the tender, their crews already debriefing the day's missions. The sight of those familiar flying boats, safe in their hidden anchorage, filled me with a relief I hadn't expected to feel. We'd survived our baptism of fire, but barely. The landing was routine. Hansen called out our approach speeds while I eased the Catalina down onto the calm waters of the lagoon. The familiar sound of spray against the hull and the gentle deceleration as we settled into the water told me we were home. Within minutes, a motor launch was alongside to tow us to our mooring, and ground crews were swarming over the aircraft to refuel and service her for the next mission. The intelligence debriefing took 2 hours. Staff officers wanted every detail of what we'd observed: ship types and numbers, damage assessment, Japanese tactics and formations. I found myself going over the same events again and again, each time remembering some new detail that might be useful for planning future operations. But it was only later, sitting in the tiny wardroom of the USS Tangier with a cup of coffee and a sandwich, that the full implications of what we'd accomplished began to sink in. The Battle of the Coral Sea, as historians would later call it, was the first naval battle in history fought entirely by aircraft carriers, with the opposing surface fleets never coming within sight of each other. It was also the first major check to Japanese expansion in the Pacific, the first time their seemingly invincible war machine had been stopped and forced to retreat. And it had all started with our sighting report from the morning patrol. The Japanese never did take Port Moresby. Their invasion fleet, scattered and bloodied in the Coral Sea, limped back to Rabaul and never returned. Without Port Moresby as a forward base, they couldn't mount a credible threat to Australia, and their grand strategy of isolating Australia from American reinforcement collapsed. More importantly, the Battle of the Coral Sea served as a deadly preview of what would happen just 1 month later at Midway, where Admiral Chester Nimitz would use many of the same tactics: long-range reconnaissance aircraft locating the enemy fleet, followed by coordinated strikes from multiple carrier groups to inflict the most devastating defeat in the history of the Imperial Japanese Navy. But that night, exhausted and emotionally drained from 14 hours of combat flying, I didn't think about grand strategy or historical significance. I thought about the Japanese sailors we'd watched abandoning their sinking ships, and the American pilots who'd pressed home their attacks knowing they might not survive to see another sunset. I thought about the terrible arithmetic of war, where victory was measured not just in ships sunk and objectives secured, but in the lives of young men who would never see their families again. War, I was learning, was not the clean, heroic adventure that Hollywood movies had led me to expect. It was a grinding, brutal business where good men died for reasons they didn't always understand, where split-second decisions could mean the difference between victory and defeat, between going home and disappearing forever into the vast blue of the Pacific. But it was also a crucible where ordinary people discovered they were capable of extraordinary courage. I'd watched dive bomber pilots push through murderous anti-aircraft fire to deliver their bombs with surgical precision. I'd seen torpedo plane crews boring in at wave-top height, knowing that one lucky shot from a Japanese gunner could turn their aircraft into a flaming coffin. And yes, I'd done my own small part, keeping our lumbering Catalina in contact with the enemy fleet for 8 critical hours that enabled our strike aircraft to find and destroy their targets. The Battle of the Coral Sea was officially recorded as a tactical draw. Both sides lost roughly equal numbers of ships and aircraft. But strategically, it was a decisive American victory that changed the course of the Pacific War. The Japanese advance was stopped, their aura of invincibility was shattered, and their experienced carrier pilots, irreplaceable veterans who had trained for years before the war, were being whittled away in battles they could no longer win decisively. As I finally fell asleep in my narrow bunk aboard the USS Tangier, lulled by the gentle motion of the ship at anchor, I knew that I'd been present at a turning point in history. The coordinates I'd transmitted that morning had guided American bombers to the largest concentration of Japanese shipping in the Southwest Pacific, resulting in a slaughter that crippled their invasion plans and saved Australia from the threat of Japanese occupation. But more than that, it had proven that American forces could stand toe-to-toe with the Imperial Japanese Navy and emerge victorious. The long retreat that had started at Pearl Harbor was over. From now on, we would be moving forward, island by island, battle by battle, until we reached the very shores of Japan itself. The war was far from over, and there would be many more battles, many more losses, many more moments of terror and triumph in the months and years to come. But on that night in May 1942, as I drifted off to sleep in a hidden lagoon somewhere in the Coral Sea, I knew with absolute certainty that we were going to win. The Japanese had learned a hard lesson that day. In the vast Pacific Ocean, there was no place to hide from the searching eyes of American patrol aircraft, and no escape from the terrible swift sword of American naval aviation. The Black Cats had found them, and the dive bombers and torpedo planes had finished them. It was a pattern that would be repeated again and again as American forces began their long march across the Pacific toward Tokyo Bay. We'd given them a taste of what was coming, and from the look of those burning ships disappearing beneath the waves of the Coral Sea, they were absolutely horrified by what they'd seen.